How's it going, everybody? Hoping everybody had a good week. We're actually back on a roll with doing this weekly. I typically would start at 9:30, but regrettably, I boomered, and I guess I clicked 9:10 instead of 9:30. But that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna go ahead and get rolling. I'm already up here at my desk, and technically, I did start late, so I am hashtag late and gay. Um, but we're gonna have a good show to make up for that. Gonna check real quick to make sure my audio and visual are coming through okay. Let me see. Oh gosh, come on. I will say the Locals app for which Locals is partnered with Rumble. I don't have a Locals community set up yet. Excuse me, but that is something that I've thought about doing. Um, you know, might do some more niche stuff on a Locals stream or some Locals content. I actually got an email from Creator Rumble Creator Studio or something like that. Um, oh, good deal. Thanks, Annie Fangs. Appreciate you. But I actually got an email from Rumble asking about reading ads. So that might be something that I do. I'm not sure what type of reimbursement they have for that, but yeah, I'm definitely interested in reading an ad in here and there. I'll try not to make that the brunt of I'm not going to be like the Daily Wire or anything like that. Doing an ad read every 5 seconds or 3 or 4 streams, something like that. It depends on the length of the stream, but I might do a couple here and there. Yeah, why not? But like I've said before, I know, right? Yeah, moving on up. But like I've said before, I mean, I don't expect this to be like a career or anything like that. I've got my own career. This is just something that I like to do. I like to talk about things. I like, I'm very interested in the news. I've been like that since I was younger. I think it was 17. I was really involved in stuff even at 17 years old. We had what's up, Just Me Art fan? JMath. Um, I was interested in this stuff even when I was younger. The first election I could vote in was the 2008 election, and regrettably, I voted for Barry Soetoro. I was fooled by the silver tongue. The man can speak. I'll give him that. Well, he can read a teleprompter very well. That's what Obama can do, and apparently hang out with uh, fellows of the night, we'll say. But yeah, I voted for him. And then I realized shortly after that, when I started paying attention, I'm like, well, he said he was going to do this, this, and this, and this, right? And then he didn't. And I'm like, oh, so that's how this goes. Okay, then. But, anyways, enough of my rambling. Looks like we've got a few people here, anyways. We are going to go ahead and get into the topics today. Well, at least a little brief rundown, a little intro of what we're going to talk about today. As noted in the it's a good point. Good point, JMath. CIA does there we are the populace is definitely manipulated heavily in all media, pretty much. Advertisements, videos that you watch, television, whatever, the news. Yeah, you know what? We might talk about that for a minute. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of, I think, 2012. I think that's when it got the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. Yeah, it's legalized propaganda. Not like they weren't doing it before, but with them, officially saying, hey, yeah, you can go ahead and just propagandize all you want in conjunction with the media and the government. So that's pretty much what the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act did. I could do a whole stream about that. Yeah, he's right. Been going on a lot longer. But what we're going to talk about today, first topic that we're going to talk about, very, very lighthearted stuff today, guys. Very, very chill. We're going to be just kind of, talking about some really, flowers and sunshine, right? The authorization of use of deadly force in the Mar-A-Lago raid. That is something that has, been talked about quite a bit over the last week or so. It I'll get in. I'll get in. I have my initial response, and my initial response is to put on a beanie and start talking about Civil War, aka a la Tim Pool. That was the first. That was my knee jerk response. We're like, oh, okay, we're already in the Civil War. We just haven't acknowledged it yet. While that actually might be true, in a way, soft Civil War, cold Civil War, I guess you could say. While that may be true, um, there might be more context to this that we need to actually look at. And I actually watched a decent interview between, I'm blanking on his name, but he's with the Blaze. He's one of the J6, Certification Day 2021 reporters that was arrested recently. He's with the Blaze. I don't think he was at the time, but he is now. He was on with Viva Fry earlier because they were kind of going back and forth on X, and they actually had a really good conversation. And the other guy, I think Steve Baker. Yeah, Steve Baker. That's who it is. They, he provided I think a measured perspective. He's definitely not I don't think he's like a Fed boy or anything like that. A lot of people were saying that he was. Steve Baker, I don't think so. I seriously doubt that he's a Fed boy. It seems like he was actually, he had a nuanced approach. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, the Department of Justice did authorize use of deadly force. They were after the nuclear football. They raided to hope to find, and guess what? They didn't find it because the commander, yeah. They there are a lot of implications that could go into such a blanket approach. And so, like I said, we'll talk about it more in depth when we get into it. After we get done talking about the Mar-a-Lago raid and the use of deadly force authorized by Biden's DOJ, it's not an impartial department. Just so we know, it's not impartial. It's absolutely the Department of Injustice at this point. More evidence right there. Next thing that we're going to talk about, more Civil War stuff. Oregon has 13 counties that are on the border, I guess towards the south of Oregon, and they are close to the border of Idaho, and they want to secede from the ultra-liberal state of Oregon to Idaho, which is more conservative. I'm absolutely for this. I don't see why this is a problem. If you have counties in a state, say for instance, Illinois, right? I'm in Missouri, and say for instance, Illinois wanted to, you had some of the rural counties that wanted to secede to Missouri. Why not? Why should they be controlled by Illinois or Chicago? Doesn't make sense to me. So you've got 13 Chadley counties in Oregon that are sick of the crap from the liberal population centers, and they want to dip out. I think they should be allowed to, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth after we get done talking about the 13 Oregon counties. 13, kind of like the 13 colonies, huh? Interesting. That's interesting. Apparently, JMAF is saying that Idaho is one of the top 50 most corrupt states. Didn't know that. I actually spent some time in Idaho when I was little. May or may not have gone on an 18-month-long trip with my father when me and my brothers when we were like 4, just to go fishing. And we ended up in Idaho for a while, and it was cold. I remember that there was snow, a lot of snow, but yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked into that, but that's interesting. I'll have to look into that. Just me, JMAF. Apparently, I haven't really looked into which states are the most corrupt, but I mean, I would have thought that California and Illinois and Michigan might be up there, but I guess it depends on what type of corruption you're looking at. That could be a lot of different things. So, oh gosh, well, seems like you might have a bit of a history with. I'm sorry that happened, JMAF. I really am. But I mean, it does make sense that there would be some drugs flowing through that state. Typically in the northern states and Midwestern states, or Midwestern states, I guess people do get kind of bored, and then drugs kind of fill that void. But anyways, next we're going to go ahead and talk about Judge Merchan or Merchant. I really don't give a damn because he doesn't deserve the respect. Reading through some of the testimony of the trial in New York with Bragg, the accounting error trial for Trump. Reading through some of the back and forth between this judge and the defense is it's clearly it's a clear example of how we have activist judges that need to be stopped. These activists need to get off the bench. They don't need to be allowed to be on the bench. I don't know what's going on in law schools. I don't know. Well, there you go. The universities and the colleges, right? You have commie Marxist twats that are training up the next generation. That's what we have going on. And we are reaping what we've sown, essentially. Well, maybe not us, but the powers that be. They are getting what they want. They're getting talking heads. They're getting good little soldiers, good little commies executing their will. That's what we have going on right now. It's frustrating. It's disheartening to see that the legal system can be corrupted in such a way. But like I've said before, at least we have the evidence of it now. So it's good that we have the evidence and we have it in plain sight with such a large figure as Trump. You know, he's taking the slings and arrows. I'll say that. I'm not going to say he's like a savior or anything like that, because a lot of people get that way about politicians. Don't trust politicians. That includes Trump. We got to hold him accountable too, guys. You can't just always, hang off the, you know what I'm saying. All right. But, man, J Math, you won't get me distracted. You're raising some damn good points. Might have to just scroll through these later and hit up on some of these points just briefly. We are also going to go ahead and talk about the Iranian president and his chopper crash. Very well could be foul play. I mean, he's the president of Iran, and with all the stuff going on with Israel right now and with their back and forth, I could very easily see, Mossad being a part of that. It's a possibility. Don't know for sure, but definitely a possibility. Excuse me. Yeah, that's a rough looking situation. There's a lot of factors that go into the chopper crash. We'll get into it a little bit. I've got articles pulled up for each of these things. And since last time I wasn't really able to end on a lighthearted note like I wanted to. I only briefly covered the marijuana thing, and it appears as though marijuana will be rescheduled from a Schedule 1, which is no medicinal uses whatsoever, right up there with like heroin, I guess. And it's going to be moved down to a Schedule 3. Personally, I don't think that it should be scheduled at all. I think it should be treated just like alcohol. One could argue that alcohol is far worse for individuals than marijuana is. I think that it's a good thing that they're actually recognizing it officially, that it does have medicinal uses. It's been used for hundreds, if not probably thousands of years to help individuals, in various ways. So this is a good thing. And this is a good thing for those who might, have states, for instance, that have medicinal marijuana use. And they, I think it's going to be a good thing. I did see something the other day. I forgot who was reporting it, but apparently daily marijuana use is outpacing daily alcohol use. That's surprising to me, and I'm wondering how they got those numbers, how they got that stats. Is it self-reporting? I mean, with surveys, is it over the phone? Was it talking to a representative sample of the population? Don't know. So I would need to know a lot more about that specific headline and that little bit of reading that I did. I would need to know a lot more about that to give a really full-throated opinion on that statement that marijuana apparently is outpacing alcohol on a daily basis. It would be interesting to see if that's if it is, as they say it is. Yeah. Just J Mafia, I agree with you, man. Oh, he said, Yanni Fangs, not in my home. Hey, you know what? I'm not hating. If you drink, that's fine. There are people that can drink and there are people that can't. Here's the thing. There are people that can smoke weed and there are people who cannot smoke weed. That's my opinion. I think that kind of goes with any substance. For instance, this little Pepsi Zero here. There might be people who drink so much Pepsi Zero that they actually end up in, the hospital or just severe health consequences from such a thing. Something as simple as soda, but it does have caffeine. That is a substance, technically a drug. But anything in excess is bad. There's moderation, and that's yeah, I think it's a good thing. So it's a good thing that's where we'll end the stream on that. I'm gonna try to keep it to an hour and a half today. We're already 15 minutes in, but I don't have a video to watch today, so I think that's the reason that we went so long last time. It seemed like people were enjoying themselves though, so as long as people are having fun, and if you guys got topics you want to throw out there to talk about, I'm all ears. I am going to try to stick to my basic format though. Cover 3 or 4 topics, then end on a lighthearted note. Today we're ending on a quote unquote high note. There you go. I need to get some sound effects. I've got this, my mic that I use is an Elgato Wave 3 Link, I think is the full name. And it's, I think it's a solid little mic. I've enjoyed it so far, but there's like a whole, it's a whole app and you can get like a soundboard with it and stuff. So I might try to tinker with that at some point. Yeah. And, I think before we get into the lighthearted note, we might go ahead and talk a little bit about, I know there's people here that, watch some of the same streamers that I do. I'm sure there's people here that have heard about Reschedule and what went on there. We don't know the context. We don't know all the details. So I'm not going to form an opinion one way or the other right now. But, if you're, I don't think we're going to divert it. I'll just say this. If you're struggling with something, if you are struggling with something, and a lot of men have a problem, excuse me, it's hard for a lot of men to admit that you have an issue that you need help with. Here's the thing. It's okay to ask for help. There's usually somebody out there that's willing to help you out. And it's okay to admit that you need the help. It's a pride thing for a lot of men. Men struggle. And a lot of times men aren't felt like they're allowed to be vulnerable. But you ain't Superman. Talk to somebody if you need to, okay? It's worth it. It is worth it, and it can help. It definitely can help. If you actually talk to somebody about what you got going on, they might even just the simple act of getting it out. Getting it out, maybe you can bounce some ideas off of them. Maybe you can get a little bit of advice. Maybe you can just feel better at getting the stuff out. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that one. Pray for people that are struggling. That's all I'll say. And I don't say that in a and if you don't pray, send good vibes. Nothing wrong with that either. Not everyone's praying folk, and that's just fine with me. As long as you're sending good vibes, that's what it's about. So, all right. So we are going to go ahead and start with the last week of the Trump trial. The hush money trial, as they call it, but we know that's a lie. It is an accounting error trial. They have one of the worst judges for them, for the left, for their cause. Because here's the thing. If the jury, and I've heard that there are actual attorneys on the jury, New York attorneys on the jury for Trump. How that was allowed to go through, how those weren't disqualified, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and assume that the selection process was highly biased against Trump, as most things are in the legal system right now. We have activist judges. Judge Merchan, whatever your name is, dude, I don't care. Judge Merchan, you suck. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, my cousin Vinny there for you. Everything he just said was bullshit. Essentially, yeah. This judge, when Robert Costello, was on the stand last week, and I think some this week actually. No, it was last week where the back and forth went down. You had essentially you had a measuring contest going on between the judge and the judge and Costello. Costello was Cohen's attorney, or at least consulted as an attorney or something like that. And they had, he wasn't on retainer, so technically he wasn't his attorney, but he did seek legal counsel and guidance from him. And they talked about some interesting things. And pretty much Costello's testimony did nothing to help the prosecution and only helped Trump. There were times that the judge was striking things or sustaining objections from the prosecution whenever a salient point was made that helped the defense. Here's the messed up thing. The legal system, the judge, even the prosecutor, you should have the best interest of the defense, the defendant. That you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Yeah, the prosecutor is trying to make a case, but they need to be mindful. They need to be mindful of the rights of the defendant. And it seems all too often that prosecutors and judges tend to be on the same side. And I think that's because a lot of judges were former prosecutors. They have a kinship with their prosecutor brethren. And they are very punitive at times. The Trump case in New York should have been dismissed. This is not something that should have occurred. We know this. The federal government wouldn't go after these charges. They didn't think that there was a crime. The state has no place with a case like this. It's absolutely absurd that it's absurd to me that they were allowed to go ahead and move forward with something that they don't have any jurisdiction over. They don't. How things aren't getting, I would think he would be able to appeal the decision, not to dismiss. I would think. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm, a layman. I would think that the Trump team has been doing what they can. Good old Joe Neerman, Good Logic. He's someone that you guys should definitely check out. He does a great. He's been doing a great thing reading the transcript of the trial over the last week or so, and it's been really fun to watch. And he's also one of the lawyers that has filed a motion to ungag Trump. He's actually, trying to get something done. There's judges that absolutely have a God complex. Yeah. And I don't understand how they think they have a God complex in the most, in the weirdest direction sometimes. Like they'll get behind the worst individuals and prop them up and be lenient on them. And then they will take and find the person that did one thing wrong and they've been doing everything right for most of their lives, and they will crucify them. It's like, oh, you know better, so we're going to make a point with you. But this, oh, wow, we actually have someone watching on YouTube. Hi, YouTube person. Appreciate you watching. I actually do have a YouTube channel, and I think, tangent, I'm squirreling. Bear with me. Gosh darn it. I got distracted. The YouTube stream thing. I thought that I had things figured out with YouTube and was able to live stream, but I had never actually requested to live stream. And that's why whenever I was doing these Rumble, I've done these past few Rumble streams, it hasn't also live streamed to YouTube as well. So this is the first content that's going on my YouTube channel in like 7 months, something like that, maybe 4. I think there was one that was about 3 or 4 months ago. What's up, Julian? How you doing? Appreciate you joining. We got a little bit of a lively chat today. We got JMath and Yanny Fangs going back and forth. It's good stuff. I think we had, do we have Kinezy up there? I think we thought we did. But anyways, and some people, if you're lurking, that's fine too. You don't have to participate in chat if you don't want to. If you're just listening and you're doing something, and that works for me too. I do that all the time. So what the heck is YouTube? Yeah. I don't do much on there. I've got like 9 followers on my YouTube channel. It's technically Bulldozer74, same username here. But you know what? If people are still on YouTube, I understand, and that's completely fine. Now, with me live streaming to YouTube, I most likely will not be monetized. I most likely who knows? My YouTube channel might get yeeted within the first stream that I'm able to live stream. Oh well, I'm supporting Rumble. I think Rumble is, no one's perfect, okay? And Rumble's user support, their creator support needs to be a little bit better at their communication. There's some folks that have had stuff removed and they have no idea why, and they've had no feedback from customer service. That's unacceptable. That's something that Rumble should get better at. If you've had things removed and you're not sure why, there was never an alert, never a warning, never a nothing, and just things are gone, that's probably not a glitch, okay? And I think it's not unreasonable for someone to expect if you've had like 13 videos, let's talk with Sally. If you definitely, first of all, go follow Talk with Sally. She's great, lovely individual. And yeah, there's been some stuff removed, and Rumble hasn't really given any feedback as to why. So that's something they can get better at. But I'm here supporting Rumble. It seems like they do care about the creators for the most part. Like I said, nobody's perfect, but I think Rumble's the place to be. So that's why I'm here, and I appreciate you guys being here. So the thing that really set me off, and I switched up the order of our stories, but I was going to do DOJ first, but I just felt like talking about the Trump stuff, the Trump trial first. Reading the transcripts and reading this back and forth between Judge Merchan and Costello set me off so bad when I first heard it and read it. I am a person who does a lot of talking with my face, my eyebrows, right? I'm very emotive. And Merchan literally at one point told Costello, "Are you staring me down? Don't give me side eye. Don't say geez. Don't mutter under your breath." Excuse me, dude? Like, I'm the type, okay, and maybe I have ODD, maybe, but I'm the type that he literally cleared the room. He cleared the room, had the jury step out, and then he told everybody else to get out and decided to chastise Costello. I guess they might have a history. That's a possibility. Absolutely unprofessional. To look at somebody who goes, "You best not look at me like that, boy." That's essentially what he did. Best not be looking at me sideways, boy. But no, screw you, dude. I would be the type to be like, "All right, Judge," and I'd wait till everybody got back in, and I would roll my eyes so damn hard and give him all the side eye and be like, "What's up? You ain't God." I would probably end up held in contempt. If at that point, Judge tells me don't look at me a certain way, all right, buddy, you're going to get all the looks. You're going to get all the looks. You might get a finger at some point. Yeah, at that point, screw you. Done. No sense of decorum at that point. I'm not in that situation. And I can talk big from where I'm at right now because, I'm not in that situation. So, but it was absolutely ridiculous. Let's go ahead, and I did have an article. Oh, if it actually pulls up. And yeah, let's go ahead and check through this article real quick. Do a little bit of light reading. I do have an article per story. Not sure if we're going to get into all of them, but we'll do what we can. So I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Coming up good for everybody. Let me check here. Oh. Screen. Oh, no. That was loud. My earbud on my phone died. I keep the chat going on the side or on my phone just to make sure nothing crazy is going on. So if you hear me doubling every now and then, that's what that is. But anyways. Agreed, they do need to take care of the bots. There are some weird bots here on Rumble, but they are pretty easily removed. I actually need to figure out how to do such a thing, because I'll just handle that, I guess. But I don't know. I'll look into that, trying to figure out how to remove things from chat and all that. Good deal. All right, so Judge Merchan clears courtroom so he can scold Trump defense team's star witness. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. I wonder who they're quoting there. That's a quote. So, contention flowed at former President Donald Trump's trial on allegations he falsified business records. But for once, Trump was not the focus of Judge Juan Merchan's ire. It was the defense team's star witness. Witness Robert Costello was on the stand on Monday when his obvious dissatisfaction with rulings that blocked the defense from asking him the questions it sought to ask was quashed by Merchan. The core of Costello's testimony was that prosecution witness Michael Cohen had said that Trump never knew about payments to porn star Stormy Daniels that are at the heart of the case. A quote from Cohen: "I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything on Donald Trump." And that he paid Daniels on his own. It was his own money, guys. His money. Not even Trump's money, not the Trump, but he stole from the Trump Foundation, the Trump organization. He stole. It's like, good God, how is this your star witness, prosecution? Really? Cohen said he was battling a pressure campaign by Trump and his supporters into working with Costello. Defense lawyers tried to pursue that line of thought, but were blocked by Merchan. "I'm not going to allow this to become a trial within a trial about a pressure campaign and how it affected Cohen," Merchan said, according to NBC. After Merchan spiked one question at the behest of the prosecution, according to USA Today, Costello exhaled, "Geez, oh, so offensive. So offensive." Merchan responded, "Sorry, I'm sorry." "Strike it," Costello said. Okay, there's a little back and forth. I like it. Merchan informed Costello only the judge has the power to order testimony to be stricken, according to USA Today. "Do you understand that?" Merchan asked. He then took issue with Costello's eye movement. "Are you staring me down right now?" he demanded. What a pompous prick. What? Just seriously, dude? Get over yourself. People can look at you the way they want to look at you. All right. Maybe there's a reason that I'm so triggered, and I am absolutely triggered by this. Maybe there's a reason. When I was in fourth grade, right, I was talking about how with my eyebrows, right? I have, for some reason, one of those core memories. I was told to leave my fourth grade classroom because my fourth grade teacher, Miss Heavner, yeah, I know it's petty that I still remember this, but she actually had me leave her classroom as a fourth grader because she thought I was giving her mean looks. When I just have heavy eyebrows, and my eyebrows do a lot of talking, she was under the impression I was staring her down or giving her mean looks, and told me that I was kicked out of the classroom. Well, in my little fourth grade self, I didn't understand that that just meant for the time being. I thought I was kicked out of the class for the whole time, and that's something that stuck with me. So maybe that's why I've got my own little personal thing about people, having an issue with the way you look at them, I guess. So yeah, a little brief background on me and why I might be a little bit angry at this. It's petty, I know, but it is what it is. So, Merchan actually cleared the courtroom of jurors and the media for a talk with Costello about decorum. Yeah. According to a transcript published by USA Today of what took place while the courtroom was cleared, Merchan scolded Costello. "The fact that I had to clear the courtroom that the court officers, including the captain, had great difficulty clearing the courtroom, and that there was argument back and forth between the press and including counsel for the press, goes to why I had to clear the courtroom in the first place," Merchan said. "Oh, aren't you so righteous, so above it all, huh, Merchan?" No, you're not. "And that is, sir, your conduct is contemptuous right now. I'm putting you on notice that your conduct is contemptuous. If you try to stare me down one more time, I will remove you from the stand." Whew. I would be tempted to wear sunglasses if I wanted to actually stay in the court. But at a certain point, I'd just be like, you know what? Fine, screw you, dude. And I'd stare him down, give him all the side eye, roll my eyes as hard as possible. I'm that type. I know it ain't right. I know it ain't the best way probably to respond to something like that. But ooh, it would set me off. I will strike his entire testimony. Do you understand me? What? Because you didn't like the way somebody looked at you or talked or what? You're mm. Yeah, Yanni Fangs, you got a good point. Righteous indignations, we see, but mustn't stir up trouble. I agree. And Costello did the right thing by backing it down and just going ahead and saying yes, Judge, and he did. But man, it would be hard. It would be so hard to actually do that. So the Trump lawyer responded, "Yes, Judge, I understand." Emil Bove, so was the Trump lawyer. "Listen to the question and answer the question," Mershon said. "Can I say something, please?" Costello said, according to the transcript. No, this is not a conversation," Mershon replied. What a jerk. After court, Trump told reporters Mershon was doing the prosecution's bidding to block his attorneys from asking questions. Trump is absolutely right. He's absolutely right in this instance. Yeah, he's absolutely, Yanni Fangs. He is not a balanced, neutral arbiter of law. The judge is supposed to be a neutral arbiter of law, and we don't have that in this case, and we don't have that in too many cases, I would say. That's part of why the system needs a shakeup. And I'm fine with an etch-a-sketch approach, honestly, at this point. Take the people out. If they're elected, get involved in your judges. Okay, on a local level, you can research what your judges have done in the past. You can research how they rule, how they how they present themselves, and you can actually look through this. If you don't know a name when you're voting in your local or state or your municipal elections, if you don't know, look them up. If you got time, you can get your phone out. We have these awesome little supercomputers, I guess, in the palm of our hands that we can actually do a little bit of research on the people that we're voting for if you don't know. Because sometimes I get surprised at the ballot. I try to read up on what's going to be on my local ballots, but sometimes I get surprised. If you're not sure, either don't fill in a bubble for somebody you don't know just because they're the incumbent. I'll say that. Actually look into things. Excuse me. So, all right. So Trump went on to say, nobody's ever seen anything like this, Trump said. In a Truth Social post published just after midnight Tuesday, Trump called for the trial to end immediately. And he's right. It should. I could try to do a Trump voice, but my Trump voice is not the best. I might try for a minute here. Judge Juan Mershon, who has thus far been the exact conflicted Democrat operative his comrades expected, has a chance to take a real step toward rehabilitating both his reputation and the justice system of New York by dismissing the Biden election interference witch hunt brought by Soros-funded DA Alvin Bragg. Yeah. All right, there you go. Every serious legal expert and scholar is unequivocally stating that the prosecutors have not come close to putting on a case. There is no crime, which means that the right thing to do is end this scam now and forevermore. There you go. Oh, damn. Daramuth, thank you so much. Is that a Rumble rant? How about you? Dude, thank you. I sincerely appreciate that. What is that? Is that $2? Dang, Daramuth for 2. For a cool dude, have a great weekend, Bulldozer74. Dude, thank you, man. Appreciate you. That's the first Rumble rant I've ever got. 5th stream in. Thank you, man. All right. Good stuff, bud. I think it's just because I was doing a Trump impression. That must have been what it was. It was the Trump impression, and you know what? If you want more of it, I'll do more. But not right now. Maybe. It's got to be organic. I can't make it happen just on its own. All right, let's get back to this. So there is no crime, which means that the right thing to do is to end this scam now and forevermore. It would be big, bold, and beautiful, but highly unexpected, yet brilliant step toward justice in New York. God, I love the way Trump speaks. And our nation as a whole, Trump wrote. The man's an entertainer, all right? The man is an entertainer, so... I'm not saying my Trump impression's great, but it's I've been working on it. So, we've got a note. We've got a note from our deputy managing editor. I heard a chilling comment the other day. We don't even know if an election will be held in 2024. That wasn't said by a conspiracy theorist or a doomsday prophet. No, former U.S. National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, said that to the founder of the Western Journal, Floyd Brown. General Flynn's warning means that the 2024 election is the most important election for every single living American. If we lose this one to wealthy elites who hate us, hate God, and hate what America stands for, we can only assume that 248 years of American history and the values we hold dear to our hearts may soon vanish. The end game is here, and as Benjamin Franklin said, we must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately. Is this the actual quote from... It's a little bit doom and gloom, but General Flynn's usually on point, so it's not bad. All right. I'll take it. But yeah, that's a little doom and gloom there at the bottom. That doesn't really have much to do with, I think, the rest of the story there. It's disheartening to see what's going on. In the judicial system. The justice system is lacking justice, as far as I'm concerned. But I think it's going to get better. I think this stuff being put on blast, being shown for what it is going to end up actually being a good thing. I think we are going to see a positive result from this type of thing. So that's my white pill kind of perspective on it. I might be wrong. I mean, it might just get worse and worse and worse. I don't think that. I can't think that way because I don't want to be doom-pilled, and neither should you. You shouldn't be doom-pilled either. Positive begets positive, damn it. I like that. Sometimes you're spinning your wheels, but I think in general, you keep a positive perspective as best you can. Not saying everybody's going to be happy all the time, positive about things all the time, but as long as you try, I think that's worth it. And I think you can actually, maybe affect something in a particular type of way. I think there are, energies and mentalities. I think if enough people get together and have the right type of mentality, I think good things can happen. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story, staying in the vein of the God King, Emperor Donald Trump. We're going to talk about the Department of Justice, Injustice rather. The Department of Justice authorized the use of deadly force for the Mar-A-Lago raid. Now, earlier today, I was watching, and I had seen before on X kind of a back and forth between Viva Fry and Steve Baker. Steve Baker is the Certification Day 2021 journalist who is now with the Blaze, but I don't believe he was. I believe at the time of Certification Day 2021, he was an independent journalist, but he has since been working with the Blaze. And he was arrested recently for just doing his job, being a reporter, the First Amendment. There was a back and forth between he and Viva Fry, and they actually had a really good conversation for the little bit that I heard. And Steve Baker did provide a nuanced approach. My knee-jerk response to seeing that the Department of Injustice had authorized the use of deadly force for the raid on Mar-A-Lago, my first reaction was, well, okay, I'll go ahead and just put my beanie on and get some chickens. Because Civil War. That's what my first response was. Department of Jerk-offs. Yeah, I agree. You're right. Yanni Fangs, you're right. Absolutely. But the Civil War is already here essentially, and it's just cold, and we haven't really acknowledged it yet. That was kind of my internal kind of feeling at seeing that they had authorized the use of deadly force. Now, knee-jerk reaction, emotional first response. That's what that was. And I kind of do see people's point when they say we're actually kind of in a cold civil war. Honestly, it got hot in the Summer of Love. People don't want to acknowledge that for what it was, but the Summer of Love was a very, very concerning step in mobilization of large numbers of people against each other. And they were very organized. You have the Antifa types. They absolutely are something that exists. Antifa is not just an idea. Who is it? Good Lord. Anyways, I haven't finished it yet, but I was reading a good book. He's the founder of the Post Millennial. Dang it. Asian fella got beat up and actually suffered brain damage from some of these Antifa soy boys and gals, and Zers and Z's. Got to be inclusive, y'all. Andy No. Andy No wrote a book about Antifa and how they are organized and how they come together. And they absolutely are an organization. They absolutely have training materials. They have meetings. They have, reading materials that you're supposed to read before actually being involved in an official capacity with them. So, yeah, they're absolutely a thing. And they are essentially the brown shirts, and BLM, Andy No, yep. Thanks, Yanni. Thanks. The Department of Justice, I think, and the intelligence agencies uses these individuals. They're useful idiots, and they pit us all against each other. But when they get violent, when they get in large groups like that, you got to be able to defend yourself, and you got to be ready. Not even sure who Andy Guys is. But anyways, they authorized the use of deadly force to raid Mar-a-Lago for documents. And like I said, my first response was, "Holy crap! They wanted to have a shootout." And I'll say this. I think a shootout with Trump's Secret Service detail and the feds would have been excellent optics for the feds. And it would have been easy for them to demonize Trump and say, "Look, he's got his own little loyal army. He's a seditious individual who has, taken up arms against the government." Oh my God. Oh, that's horrible. You ever choke on your own spit? Yep. All right, I'm back. Good God, that was awful. When your body's trying to, yeah, well, I was, guess I did go down the wrong pipe. Didn't even have anything in my mouth, but hey, whew, that was rough. All right, almost dying aside. I think they would have had excellent. It would have been excellent optics for the feds if they showed up in plain clothes too. So they authorized use of deadly force. They showed up in plain clothes. Steve Baker did bring up a great point. He said that you've got two federal branches. Do you really think that they weren't in communication with each other? I don't know. That's an easy assumption to make, but we don't know that. And they'll bring up, "Oh, well, you think that they really didn't know that Trump was in New York at the time, or he wasn't there?" So I will say that the assassination attempt, excuse me, the insinuation that it was an assassination attempt, I don't, I if he was there, I could see it, but the fact that he wasn't there, I think that's a decent bit of hyperbole. Not good, and I don't care if it's standard operating procedures for the Department of Justice to do execute a search warrant. What's up, John from Earth? Appreciate you joining, bud. We got a few more topics yet. The it could very easily have been a soft attempt at taking Trump out if he was there. I doubt that they didn't know that he was actually somewhere else. I think they probably did. I don't know why they had to be plain clothes officers, though. Why did they need to be plain clothes? Why did this need to be such a big operation? If it is standard operating procedure for every execution of a search warrant that use of deadly force is authorized, maybe, just maybe, guys, just maybe, we need to adjust the standard operating procedures. If you have a warrant that is being executed for something like documents, maybe you shouldn't have that clause in there as a standard practice, a standard operating procedure. Maybe there should be different levels of SOP. 4 different warrant executions for somebody who, is thought to be armed and, dangerous, or, drug operations, or, stuff like that, stuff where people are going to be violent or could, be shooting at officers or something like that in response to the execution of a search warrant. Then, yeah, okay, that could be in your standard operating procedures in the warrant issue. But for mild cases, we could definitely call this a mild case. For documents, maybe use of deadly force shouldn't be authorized. Maybe that standard practice needs to be reevaluated. The fact that that's their standard practice, here's the thing. As an American, you have a right to defend yourself, and you have a right to be armed. The fact that you are armed doesn't mean that you need to be killed. The fact that you are simply holding a weapon, I didn't really look into this case. The service member who they apparently might have gone to the wrong apartment. I don't know. Essentially, the dude was just holding his gun, pointing it down. He answered the door because somebody was banging on the door. I don't care if they said that they're police. Here's a thing that criminals do. Sometimes they'll act like police. They'll say they're police. Sometimes they even wear crappy uniforms to act like police. So just the fact that they announced themselves and identified themselves doesn't mean that you shouldn't answer the door ready to defend yourself. Maybe don't. You know what? I'm not going to fault the dude for holding his gun. He had it pointed down, and this officer blew him away. And it's like, it's not just because somebody has a gun does not mean they're going to shoot you. You can have guns. People can hold guns and not be aiming to kill somebody. Okay? It's not a bad thing to have a gun in your hand. Doesn't mean that you're looking to shoot somebody. Now, when you point that weapon, you're dang right, you're ready to take out whatever's in front of that weapon. Yeah. But the hubbub and the fervor that has occurred as a result of this getting put on blast is interesting. They need to adjust their standard operating procedures if that's just general. And they would say standard operate. There's nothing standard about the Department of Justice going after the political opponent of the president. Okay? There's nothing standard about this. Trump is a former president. Former. No, I don't think Biden actually, is legitimate as people would have you believe. Now, I don't think that Trump's like in the basement actually running things. I think Obama's in a house a couple, blocks away from the White House, essentially. He's got that earpiece, most likely. He's got all the people from his administration or in the Biden administration. Maybe not all, but quite a bit. So this is essentially Obama's third term, y'all. But they're overstepping. They're overstepping, and they should have not just done the blanket warrant and kept everything in there that they usually keep in there. They should have gone ahead and changed things up and maybe taken out the use of deadly force as even being an option when it comes to executing a search warrant for the former president of the United States for documents. Absolutely freaking ridiculous, okay? Absolutely freaking ridiculous. And then, of course, A.G. Garland, he responds with this, he's kind of like, he kind of reminds me of Harry Reid. And then Harry Reid reminded me of Piglet in the way that they talk. If you listen to Harry Reid, or you listen to, Merrick Garland, they do kind of sound like Piglet. Let me get this where I want it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to look through an article, watch just a little minute-long clip of this dork, salty fellow, Merrick Garland. And I do apologize for the noises. Allergies are kicking my butt right now. The heat and the pollen and the dust, and we're in farmland area, so all the stuff's getting kicked up. Wheat's starting to turn brown. People are about to start cutting that, and you're going to have people throwing square bales and all that good stuff. Yeah. He said, oh, dear. Yeah, pretty much. That's what Merrick Garland. Let's tell me if I'm hearing things or if you guys agree with me. Let's pull him up. Oh, Garland. I want to make sure my audio isn't killing ears. There we go. Keep it about there. And
I got most of us got a solicitation email this morning from the former President of the United States saying that the Justice Department had authorization to kill him during the Mar-A-Lago raid. First,
is that exactly what Trump said? I mean, kind of, maybe. A little hyperbolic, but...
Can you give us some clarification on that particular point that he's making and whether or not deadly force is authorized in other interventions, including the search of Mr. Biden's residence and office? And the second question is...
Can I do one at a time? Okay. On that one, that allegation is false, and it is extremely dangerous. The document...
Speech is not dangerous, Garland. You need these elites and their tendency to call speech dangerous. Go off, okay? People can say what the hell they want. Trump wants to say whatever the hell he wants. That's fine. As long as he's not telling people to go do bad things. Telling people to, inciting violence, which is what they accuse him of on Certification Day 2021. But we know that is not actually what happened. He said, go home with peace and love in your hearts. But, sorry. But does he not sound a little bit like Piglet?
That is being referred to in the allegation is the Justice Department's standard policy limiting the use of force. As the FBI advises, it is part of the standard operations plan for searches. And in fact, it was even used in the consensual search of President Biden's home.
Okay, so apparently they... All right. So apparently they... Good Lord. Apparently they do that. Even they did it for Biden's raid. But he's a finicky fella. I'll say that about Garland. Watching his demeanor, watching his body language. I used to be really into watching that the body language. I think it was Body Language Ghost or something like that, but different body language experts. They had some really cool analysis of individuals when they say things. I haven't watched a video like that in a while, but that used to be one of my little guilty pleasures. That and watching. What is it? I can't even think of it right now, but the show where they have all the OnlyFans, e-thoughts and stuff on there, and they talk down to him, but then it's like, okay, you're promoting him at the same time, y'all. It's okay. And it was funny. I'm not gonna lie. I was watching them. They literally hand wringing, yeah. But anyway, so Attorney General Merrick Garland ripped former President Donald Trump Thursday for ginning up outrage over a routine. There's nothing routine about this, you disingenuous pricks. Nothing routine about this. Go dig a hole and wait for the rain. My goodness. Because you need a bath, right? That's what it is. So he said that, this allegation is false and extremely dangerous. That's how he's saying that it's limiting the use of force. Doesn't look like it was. When you actually looked at it, it was not just. I had, it's not here, but I had something pulled up that had the. It said use of deadly force was authorized. I don't know. Yeah, John, I agree. He is flat out lying. Searching Biden's home, there wasn't dozens of armored men around. It was half a dozen. Yep. And well, actually, in this the Trump raid, they were plainclothes officers, but they were coming in hot, from what I understand. They wanted to go through everybody's room, all the guests, everybody's rooms, and they also, if you didn't know this, they wanted to turn the cameras off. Why? Why, oh why, would the feds want the cameras off while they're doing their raid? No, the cameras stay on. That reminds me of the cops that raided Afro Man and ate his lemon cake. Afro Man came out with the Hunter Got High song, but he also came out with the song before then about them raiding his home and shutting his camera off. the camera surveillance for Afro Man's home while they were doing their raid. And he even in this little song making fun of these cops. It was ridiculous. They didn't need to raid Afro Man's home. It was crazy, but they took and found the camera and shut it off on their own. They wanted the cameras off. They wanted the cameras off because they don't want to be held accountable. That's what it boils down to. Okay. But as the FBI advises, it is part of a standard operations plan, or standard operating procedure (SOPs) for searches, and in fact, it was even used in the consensual search of President Biden's home. Trump, 77, emerged from the Manhattan accounting error, not hush money, criminal trial proceedings on Tuesday, and trumpeted the allegations from his Truth Social account. Trumpeted. That would actually trumpet would have been a lot better name for the social media platform that Trump came out with. First of all, it's a play on his name. And trumpet, you're making noise, right? You're noticeable. You're getting it out there. I think he should rename Truth Social to Trumpet. That just rolls off the tongue better. You could even, you could call it a note instead of a post or a truth. They call it a truth. I just call it a post when I'm on Truth Social. I am on Truth Social. Billdozer74 there. If you're on there, go ahead and give me a follow. I don't get as much engagement there as I, do on X, but yeah, I'll get on there every now and then and mix it up a little bit. Let's see if they've got anything more interesting here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and read Trump's little... and apparently it's chilly in this courtroom because Trump does not like how cold it is in the courtroom. He calls it the icebox. He said, "Wow, I just came out of the Biden witch hunt trial in Manhattan, the icebox, and was shown reports that crooked Joe Biden's DOJ, in their illegal and unconstitutional raid of Mar-A-Lago, authorized the FBI to use deadly, lethal force. Now we know for sure that Joe Biden is a serious threat to democracy. He is mentally unfit to hold office." 25th Amendment, the former president railed. So he didn't say he was going to try to kill him. He said use of deadly force. So that reporter, it sounds like, was misquoting the God King. And I say that facetiously, y'all. I don't actually think he's the God King. Not really. But the FBI said in a statement that same day that use of deadly force was standard protocol. Doesn't need to be standard protocol just because it's the way you've been doing it. Doesn't mean you should keep doing it that way for executing all search warrants. However, Trump ally and far-right rep, Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote in a widely denounced X post. Who wrote this? See, this is the New York Post story by John Christensen. John, if you're going to do opinion, call it an opinion piece. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't see opinion written on here anywhere. This looks like it's purported to be a news story, which is supposed to be factual. If you're doing factual, objective reporting, keep your opinion out of it. Keep that type of language out of it. Let's see. Yeah, just do your job right. Oh, there it was. I was looking for that earlier. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the widely denounced X post. That's opinion, man. It's opinion. Go off. So that the Biden, DOJ, and FBI were planning to assassinate President Trump and gave the green light. I think that they would love to take Trump out. I do, but I don't think that's what this was because they had to have known that he wasn't there. So I don't think this was an attempt at taking him out this time. Now, there have been some leaders around the world that are a Trumpian, one could say. The leader of Slovakia being the most recent, where they did try to take him out. Last I heard, he was doing better, but was still in rough shape. He got shot like 4 times by a crazy liberal. Yeah, that happens, y'all. Trump's attorneys had first highlighted the authorization in a Tuesday evidence dump in the classified documents criminal case, which they have argued arose from the unconstitutional search of Mar-a-Lago. It was unconstitutional. He has the plenary authority to declassify whatever the hell he wants. So on August 8th, 2022, armed FBI agents stormed the private residence of the former president of the United States, wrote Todd Blanche and Christopher Keyes, not sure. What was unthinkable with respect to President Clinton's recordings and deemed unwarranted with respect to Hillary Clinton's destruction of evidence was determined to be appropriate by the Biden administration for President Biden's chief political rival. That is absolutely a fair point. Special Counsel Jack Smith has indicted Trump on 40 counts of illegal retention of national defense information among more than 100 classified files, as well as lying to federal authorities who sought them and one of his own attorneys. Trump was actually cooperating with NARA, but they technically they're not an enforcement arm, and they have no right to demand that a president send evidence or send documents back to them. So, NARA can go off. Special counsel, see, we already talked about that. So there was the image of the image of the use of deadly force, which I think this is just a document dump from Trump's attorneys. So the illegal raid, that's what it is. Use of deadly force when necessary. There shouldn't have been any chance that was going to happen, especially if they were cooperating and engaging back and forth. So, so the president, of course, is pleading not guilty. Presidential Records Act absolutely covers what he was doing. He has the authority to declassify whatever he wants. The fact that they're trying to go after him for this is nuts. And he actually had them in a safe. They told him the things that he needed to do, and he was cooperating and doing what they asked him to do to keep this information safe. He had his own private security, he has Secret Service, and he's at Mar-a-Lago. You're going to say that this is prosecutable, but what Joe Biden was doing with his documents, what Mike Pence, Judas Pence was doing with his documents, that's not something you should go and prosecute? Are you shitting me? Seriously? The disparity in their approach, and I say it all the time, the disparity in application of the law is eventually what's going to, hey, thanks, Julian. I appreciate you, man. It's eventually what's going to lead to either a collapse of the system or something better, refinement of the system. I would rather have refinement. I would rather it get fixed because I don't think it's completely worth throwing out yet. I'm not an accelerationist, and part of that is because I have a family, that I'm not an accelerationist. If I was a single man with no kids, I probably would be one of those folks that said, you know what, screw it, let it burn. Take it down. What's up, Dr. Roxo? Yeah, Judas Pence. I actually did a video months ago about Pence. It's a shorter one. It was when I was kind of just starting this stuff, and one of my one-off videos. And I think I used the image of Pence with the fly on his head. Interesting, stuff with the fly there. But flies are a sign of stuff. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, Not just that he's full of shit either about the whole certification day 2021 thing. All right, come on. Apparently those are the documents. You have like a moisture thing going on there. Let's see if there's anything really worth talking about in the rest of this. So Biden 81 evaded criminal charges in February for also retaining classified documents at his home and a former personal office in Washington, D.C. He had one in Chinatown too, didn't he? Though Special Counsel Robert Hur determined that ex-vice president had willfully retained and disclosed the sensitive files to his ghostwriter, but he still didn't go to charge him. And the reason that he gave is absolutely insane. The reason that Hur gave that he wouldn't prosecute, and the reason that Biden has exerted executive privilege over the recordings with Hur, is because Biden presents as an old man who can't remember even his son's birthday, even how old his son is. Biden is so freaking decrepit, mentally, physically, that they're like, hey, the jury would be far too sympathetic to him because, he's just an old man and a doddering old fool. That's why they didn't charge him. And okay, if that's the case, why hasn't the 25th Amendment been used yet? If he can't even be prosecuted because he's so old and decrepit, why hasn't the 25th Amendment been implemented yet? The man shouldn't be there. Some of the recent, they call them gaffes. They're not gaffes. The man just can't speak. He can't get the words out. He's had 2 aneurysms. And I'm not saying that, just because somebody's had injuries like that doesn't mean they're absolutely disqualified. Actually, you know what? Yes. If you've had aneurysms, you probably shouldn't be able to be president. That is a serious There's brain damage. I mean, that's what occurs after you've had an aneurysm. You're going to have some brain damage. And it's not a stutter. The man just can't speak anymore because he's getting old and he's losing his faculties, okay? That's what's going on. Do I think they were trying to assassinate Trump with this? No. I think that's a hyperbole. And I think that they just need to change their standard operating procedures and be able to adjust things and be a little bit more flexible with how they implement a search warrant. It shouldn't always be the case that you authorize use of deadly force, especially in a situation where you're dealing with the former president of the United States and the Secret Service. So, John from Earth, are you talking about the ceremony where Biden all of a sudden, went whoa because he was like startled by the crowd, or are you talking about where he essentially just made gibber, like it was gibberish? You couldn't understand a damn thing he said. It was like Pananaka Flacca something. I don't know what the man was trying to say. Not sure which one you're talking about, if it's in reference to that or not. But yeah, it is sad. I would be more sad if he wasn't such a horrible person whenever he had his faculties about him. And if he hadn't taken showers with his daughter far too long, apparently. That Biden diary was authenticated. It's been authenticated. Them literally raiding James O'Keefe for it told you that it was real. Why was the FBI involved in getting someone's personal private diary? I don't know. We do know. It's because it's a weaponized department. It's weaponized. With Biden at the helm, it's going to be used inappropriately. It's going to be used for personal gain. So apparently he was trying. So Biden was trying to. Oh man. Yeah. It. John from Earth, he said, he was trying to put a medal on the former governor of New York, and he couldn't figure out what he was supposed to be doing. It happens all too often. It happens all too often. The man is definitely, if you've had people that have suffered from dementia or Alzheimer's, what is my mouse doing? Oh my goodness. Cooperate with me. There we go. I've got a USB little Bluetooth kind of mouse, and if I get it out of range, it tends to spaz out on me. But it was on Bloomberg. I'll have to check that out. It is sad when you do see people losing sense of self and losing abilities, especially if you've had loved ones that have gone through that. But like I said, if he wasn't such a horrible person in his life, I would feel worse. The fact that he has been such a bad person and done horrible things, not saying that I'm perfect, but he's done some horrendous things in his 50 years with the government. So I am a little bit more calloused in my approach, and I'm just like, you know what? Set him off to the side. Put him in the home. Set him off to the side. Let him be. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we did. We knew that he was in the state that he's in. And Trump used that to say that he was unfit and talk about the 25th Amendment for this. I think there's far more things that you could use the 25th Amendment for Biden, as mostly just the mental capacity, which he lacks to actually do the job. All right, keeping in the Civil War talks, we have 13 Oregon counties that have moved to secede from Oregon and join Greater Idaho, as they call it. I'm absolutely fine with it. I don't see why this is a problem. If you have counties that want to secede from a state because the state is controlled by little puddles of blue, and you have red counties that want to secede to another state that is not controlled by one or two cities of the state, because that's where most of the population is, then I don't see a problem with that. I think they should be allowed to do that. Apparently, there is a whole process that goes into it. It has to go through approval, I think, at the federal level. The president evidently has to sign off on it, so he probably wouldn't do such a thing because he's one of the ilk that doesn't believe in states' rights. If they are trying to do what's best for them, because evidently they've given up on Oregon and they are fleeing to go to greener pastures in Idaho. if that is actually the case. And Idaho apparently is fairly red. JMath was talking earlier about the corruption that is present in Idaho. I don't know anything about that. I wouldn't doubt it though, because you have a lot of those northern, a lot of Midwestern states that don't have much going on as far as activity wise. A lot of drug trafficking, a lot of sex trafficking, stuff like that. There's a dog outside my window for some reason. I'm up on the second level. The dog is not flying. No. I don't know why that was the thought that popped into my head. But yeah, there's neighbors let dogs run. Oh, darn. Let's talk. Good Lord, get over there. We're going to go ahead and pull up this. Move it over closer here. You know, if I have to put my hand on the actual mouse pad on my laptop, I will do so. I'll do it, laptop. So apparently there are 13 counties in Oregon that are going to try to secede. I'm for it. I think they should be allowed to do so. There are a lot of people who would say they shouldn't be allowed to do it, though. And I understand the concerns. I understand. Oh, no, we have Temu ads. Temu. I understand the hesitation to allow this type of thing to occur, but I think it should be up to these counties. And if it's the people in these counties, they want to do it, they want to go to a better state, they should be allowed to. I don't think they should have to move necessarily. I know there's a lot of logistics that would have to go into it, redrawing of the state lines, adopting the counties and stuff into the framework of Idaho. Someone was saying earlier that they don't like it because it would just those counties are going to be votes that do have some Republicans in the state Congress. Oregon, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth. That's a doom-pilled approach, but you know what? They're active in their doom-pilled approach. So, Yanny Fangs, I prefer the image of a floating wishbone pup with wings barking outside your window. I don't know if you guys can hear the dog. If you can hear it in the background, my apologies. She's a sweet dog, but she's also a yappy one. She's like kind of like a puggle, I think. I don't know. Mostly Heinz 57. The neighbors have her. She's not a bad dog. It's just I don't like that they let her run. We're out in the country, so it is what it is, but I don't like dogs barking at me when I go out to my car for something at night or something like that. I'll say that. It's rather annoying. But okay. So says yet another right-leaning county, and they're up to 13, by the way, in Eastern Oregon, has voted to secede from the Democrat-run state and join neighboring Idaho, according to reports. Crook County residents passed the measure by a 53% majority Tuesday, making it the 13th county in the state to sign on to the movement known as Greater Idaho, News Nation reported. The voters of Eastern Oregon have spoken loudly and clearly about their desire to see border talks move forward. With this latest result in Crook County, there's no excuse for the legislature and governor to continue to ignore the people's wishes. Okay, so it's Idaho to the east, not the south. But oh my goodness, that's a lot of Oregon. They have some large counties for that state. Fascinating. So they want to go over. They want to just be part of Idaho. And I guess that's the line that they have there. You guys see that little line that they drew. So they would actually be taking part of this county too, if they did it that way. Kind of looks like a little spaceship when you put it all together. Think of that old, what is it, asteroids or something? You know, the little spaceship. I don't know, squirreling guys. But so seems like an easy enough shift. Umatilla wouldn't want to be part of it, apparently, though. So Greater Idaho would see more than half of Oregon's territory leave the Beaver State and join Republican-run Idaho to the east. The move would shift Idaho's border 200 miles west past the heart of Oregon. Nice. Greater Idaho began in earnest in 2020 and quickly began gaining traction, with 11 of the state's 36 counties voting to endorse the idea by 2022. Driving the force is a sharp political divide between the more sparsely populated rural conservative interior of Oregon and the liberal coastal cities with population hubs like Portland and the state capital, Salem. If Greater Idaho were achieved, Oregon would lose two-thirds of its land, but only about 10% of its population, a disparity which has left the conservative interior of the state feeling like their laws are being passed by people with no connection to their lifestyle and beliefs. That right there is a great freaking point, because a lot of the times from the left, you'll hear this: land doesn't vote. Well, no, it doesn't. But you have culture and you have um, various factors that you should consider based on the geographic setup of a state and what works for the high population centers as far as legislation is concerned does not necessarily take into account what is best for the rural areas with much less people, much different issues. Okay? What's up, Cole's Towing? Hey, what's up, man? Glad you're here. We've been having a good one today so far, I think. We've got a couple more topics, then we'll be wrapping it up. Land doesn't vote, but culture matters, okay? And the factors, the logistics that go into running these counties and running these different areas, territories, needs to be factored in when they're making laws. And I think that the big population areas tend to forget about the fact that they are not the only they're not the only thing that should be taken into consideration. They're not the only people that matter in the state, and they tend to forget 13% of the population, 11 counties, only 13% of the population of Oregon. They get their flyover areas, within the state. And that's one of the reasons I think that a state level electoral process might be in order. Not sure how that would work, but that's just kind of my novice, my inexperienced thought that comes to mind. A state level electoral system. I don't think that the little puddles of blue should control the sea of red. Okay? That's kind of just where I'm at with that. So if Greater Idaho were achieved, Oregon would lose two-thirds of its population, only two-thirds of its land, but only 10% of the population. 10%, excuse me. Okay, so we said that earlier. The Oregon-Idaho line was established 163 years ago and is now outdated, the movement's website reads. It makes no sense in its current location because it doesn't match the location of the cultural divide in Oregon. Greater Idaho seeks to include 17 counties in its movement, made up of 14 full counties and 3 partial counties. Even if the movement gets all the votes it needs, the process would be far from over. This is what I was talking about earlier. In order to secede, the state legislatures of both Oregon and Idaho would need to approve the measure, and then the U.S. Congress would need to approve, because we are a United States. So state borders have been redrawn in the past, including the territory of Maine becoming a state independent of Massachusetts in 1820. So, hey, 200 years ago. But never before has a large swath of land and citizens seceded to join another state. I think that's all we have for that article. Unless I'm missing the rest here. Yeah. A little bit of a cutoff there. Thought there was going to be more to that article. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, okay? It's not just a, hey, we're done. It's not it just once the state votes on it, it has to go through multiple different channels. Maybe it should be refined a little bit to be a little bit simpler. I don't know. It does make sense that the U.S. Congress should be involved because, like I said, we are a United States of America, and there's a contract to be states. We're not one state, okay? We are states that are working together. And it seems like the amicable nature that we have had in the past has fell off quite a bit. It's fallen off quite a bit. We have what I would consider is almost like balkanization going on. We have redistricting, essentially. Different areas of the country think of things in different ways, and you have legal districts that sup Temple's gay music. Hey, you know what? You're late, but we got a couple more topics. We've still got the Iranian president, lighting up, and speaking of lighting up, we'll end on a high note with the talk of marijuana being rescheduled. So we still got a couple. I'm gonna try to get out of here before 2 hours. Appreciate everybody watching. Seriously, guys. I do. It's great to see the interaction in the chat. I like talking to y'all. Really appreciate you guys. Actually got a Rumble rant earlier from Daramuth. Awesome, Daramuth. Nobody ever has to feel like they have to send me a Rumble rant or a super chat. I have one viewer on YouTube. You're awesome. You one viewer on YouTube, by the way. Thank you. I'm live streaming on X as well, so I've got those 3 different vectors that I try to I actually got YouTube working today, so my focus is of course Rumble. That's where it's going to be, but I appreciate everybody who hangs out and listens to what I have to say. The videos have been doing really well. I got up to close to 2,000 views on my last video. It's like 1.7, and just the one I did a week ago hit 1.6 earlier, or 1,600 earlier. So that was really cool. And yes, I know Rumble's view count is different. Some people might come back and that counts as another view. But yeah, it's been really cool. Really cool. I appreciate you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and move past this topic. The state should be able to, county should be able to secede. I think that there is a process that needs to be adhered to. I think it might need to be streamlined a little bit, but it is what it is right now. And hopefully they're able to get what they want. Hopefully they're able to actually secede and join a state that more aligns with their values, more aligns with their culture, or is more considerate of their geographic considerations. Possibly, these big cities seem to just focus on what works for them. It's not all about y'all. Okay, it's not. You got to think about the little folks too. And a lot of the times, the rural areas actually support the big population hubs. So keep that in mind. Maybe that's one of the reasons they don't want to let them go. They actually get quite a bit. Cold stowing, that's a good point, man. There's no way they'll let people start seceding. Never happen. I'm talking about state to state. I'm not talking about from the nation. Apparently there was like a civil war. We could get into the reasons for the Civil War. There's a lot of stuff going on. Not going to touch that one right now. But, he said there's no way, it'll never happen. With that said, I like the theory of if your politicians aren't representing you, switch to the ones that will. Switch to those that will. I do agree with that. And I am not one of those people who says voting is not worth doing at this point. I think voting is still very important. I think you should get out there and vote. People would mock it with, oh, just vote harder. No, you get out and you talk to people. You have conversations with people. You contact your local, election offices. You talk about maybe being volunteers, going around knocking on doors, having just conversations with people and getting them engaged. I think is very beneficial, and I think is actually going to help things if we actually start to have the conversations that we've been far too scared to actually have. And here's what I've realized over the past 2 years or so, year and a half, it's really picked up. There are far more people out there who think like you and I. There are far more out there that think like you and I than we think. It's just, we're not as noisy. Well, I'm noisy, but that's just who I am. I'm an expressive person. But once you throw out that little bait, for a topic, for a spicy topic or a political topic or a government issue, if you just throw out a little feeler, a conversational feeler, you'd be surprised at what you can get back. You can actually have some really great conversations with people. Okay, I've had some fantastic conversations even at work about some very polarizing topics, and while we may not agree on everything, you know, I haven't. I saw just something here on the Iowa thing, or not Iowa, Idaho and Oregon thing. So, Yanni Fangs, was there a watershed legislation that spurred this movement, or was it just a constant buildup over years of division? I don't know for sure, but from what I've gathered and the reading that I've done, it sounds like it's just been a constant buildup. And back in 2022, I think they voted. It started back in 2020, the movement to form Greater Idaho, as they call it. And since 2020, it seems like it's been a slow build to actually push for seceding from Oregon to Idaho. So I don't think it was necessarily like a legislative thing. I think it's just been a groundswell of popular support. And the democratic process is speaking. They want to go join Idaho. There's a lot to it. People will have to, like I was talking about earlier, they're going to have to get the legislature to agree, both Idaho and Oregon, and then the Congress of the United States, and then the president has to sign off. It would be really interesting to see, especially since the last time something like that happened was when Maine was formed in 1820, apparently. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. All right. So, moving on from Civil War topics to possible World War topics. How you like that transition, y'all? Let's talk about Iran's president going up in flames the other day. Yes, it's sad. Any loss of life, it's sad. It sucks. But apparently, the president of Iran was with delegates in Azerbaijan, and the Azerbaijan, I think it was the Azerbaijan. Weren't they responsible for the Armenian genocide? That's right, the Armenian genocide that our government still hasn't recognized yet. The only reason I know about this is because I'm a pretty big System of a Down fan. I know, got the Five-Finger Death Punch shirt on today. I know. I liked their old stuff. Their new stuff kind of got a little bit poppy, but man, White Knuckles. Of course, Never Enough. That was their big radio debut, I guess. But Five-Finger Death Punch. I do like a lot of Five-Finger Death Punch. Ivan Moody's one of my favorite vocalists. But yeah, they that was the Turks. It wasn't the Azerbaijan. Well, I know the Azerbaijan and Armenia have gone back and forth. You know what? Thanks, Yanni Fangs. I appreciate you. I'll have to look more into that, but I'm fairly sure the Azerbaijan and the Armenians had a back and forth, didn't they? I could be misremembering. But anyways, the Iranian president was the Ottomans. I'll have to do more reading. I don't want to talk about it definitively and be wrong about something. I would rather, what was it? The phrase, better to be silent and everyone think you a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. I forgot who said that, but I think I got the quote. I think I got the quote down. But yeah, if you don't know enough about a topic, it's okay to be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about a topic to actually just to discuss this intelligently. And that's okay. That's a mature thing to do. Am I giving myself props for that right now? A little bit. But there was a real quick, and then we'll get to the Iran's president. There was a moment in college in my Poli-Sci 101 class where our professor asked for a show of hands. Said, class, show of hands. Who in here is perfectly fine with saying, I don't know enough about that topic to talk about it? And the crazy thing is, I looked around. Nobody raised their hand. Nobody in this class of like 30 young adults in college raised their hand. And I just looked around and I went, yo, right here. If I don't know enough about a topic, why do I want to, put my foot in my mouth? Okay. Why do I want to make myself look like an idiot by trying to talk about something that I don't know enough about to talk about? It just never makes sense to me. Now, I get off and, might go off on a rant every now and then, and I might not have all my facts 100%. Sometimes. Maybe. Usually, if I get emotional about something, it's usually with good reason. So, but it's okay. It's okay to say you don't know enough about something to talk about it intelligently. But okay, so on to Iran's president. Crashing. They're apparently they have a bunch of old American equipment, as is the case with a lot of sand folk. We had $80 billion worth of equipment for Afghanistan and the Taliban. Yay. Good job, Biden. Let's look here at this little article. We'll cover this briefly. So apparently that was one of the biggest things is they wanted to upgrade their fleet. The crash highlights the struggle to upgrade the fleet. In July, commander of Iran's Air Force used a set of public remarks to offer some offhand praise for the country's chopper armada. Today, the Iranian Army Aviation functions as the largest and strongest helicopter fleet in West Asia, Brigadier General Yusuf Gorbani said at a press conference. The crash that killed Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and his foreign minister this past week tells a different story. They died aboard a decades-old U.S.-made helicopter, part of an aging fleet that has been starved of spare parts by Western sanctions. So America sanctions anybody giving them new things too. So giving them more support or product aid or equipment aid. And it's kind of a strong arming type of thing that we do, but I understand it. Iran's one of the ones that I would agree with, but you could also get into the fact that Iran used to be a secular nation until our people got involved and then ended up installing the mullahs, and now you have a hardcore religious doctrinal state of Iran because of what our government did. Our intelligence agencies got in there and essentially, there's it's a can of worms when you get into how much tinkering our government does in the Middle East and other like third world areas. We do some real harm in the country, in the world, excuse me. So the crash, it was a decades-old helicopter. Iranian authorities say they are still investigating what caused the crash. So far, they are attributing it to a technical failure amid mountainous terrain and foggy weather, according to Iran state media. A number of prominent voices inside and outside the country have blamed U.S. sanctions targeting Iran's nuclear program, which Tehran says is peaceful. Washington's restrictions on Iran not only prohibit the purchase of American aircraft and spare parts, but also threaten to cut off companies from the U.S. banking system if they trade with Iran. Yeah, so I guess that was one of the choppers. Little example there. He was buried in a very holy land, from what I read. For what was to be his last trip, Razi boarded a Bell helicopter, according to state media reports and official footage of his visit to Iran's northwestern border with Azerbaijan. Iranian state media named the model that crashed as the dual rotor Bell 212, first produced in '68 and deployed by the U.S. military during its war in Vietnam. The last Bell 212 was made in 1998, so it's an out of date piece of equipment. Chopper that Raisi boarded was manufactured in 1994 by the Canadian unit of what was then known as Bell Helicopter Textron and delivered to Iran's. Okay, I really don't care that much about the model and stuff. So by Sunday's trip to the Iranian-Azerbaijan border, the helicopter was in service for decades, an age when many others would have been retired. Okay. So the engine may have struggled to safely power the chopper, given that the heavy load and mountainous terrain. I think they had 15. It can carry 15 people total. Could have broken down, said Hudson. The model's limited navigational capabilities also made it less than ideal vehicle in the foggy weather that Raisi and his companions were flying through, current and former Iranian air officials said. In Iran, pilots training to fly the Bell 212 model have to rely on observing the terrain from their seats, one former official at Iran's aviation authority said. So it's not the newest model, of course. All right. So it's not going to get into what I was thinking here. I kind of skimmed through this article before. Talks pretty much about the sanctions on Iran, keeping them from having up to date equipment. I think it's very likely that this could have been sabotage, and they mentioned the fog. And guys, we absolutely have the power to manipulate weather, and it would not be out of the question for certain weather manipulation to be used to cause flights to go down. A little bit of tinfoil hat there, but it's a possibility. If China has the ability to affect the weather for an area the size of India, it wouldn't be unreasonable to think that different countries could manipulate a small area, a small mountainous area, to have a horrible winds and fog. It's a possibility. But it's more likely, I think, it could have been mechanical failure. That's the easiest answer. We don't know, though. We don't know. Seems like with Israel and Iran going back and forth, that the most likely suspect would be Israel, if somebody actually orchestrated this. But it doesn't seem like the stuff's popped off. Honestly, people were when it happened, people instantly went, "Oh, this has got to be sabotage. This has got to be an attack." But it doesn't seem like there's any evidence of that. It doesn't seem like my first response is, "Well, shoot, that sucks. A president of another nation just died. That's rough." But I didn't automatically think, "Okay, this has to be an act of war." Could it have been? Yeah, but I don't know. I would need actual, evidence and documentation of that. Will we ever see that? If that was the case, likely no. But I before saying for sure that I know, I would want to see some actual documentation or see a report that it's a good point, man. It is Cole's towing. It's a dang good point. A lot of people saying that there's nothing to see here, but you gotta wonder. You gotta wonder. You can't if you're not questioning things, you're not paying attention, and you know it definitely could be fishy. It my knee jerk response was, well, crap, that sucks. But then thinking more about it, it's like, yeah, I can understand why people might think that this was sabotage, this was foul play, especially like I said, with all the stuff that's going on between Israel and Iran recently. Yeah, it could very easily be sabotage. It could have very easily been an attack. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. And hopefully, if that does come out, we're able to chill out and we're able to relax and just kind of let things flow. Something that helps a lot of people chill out and relax is marijuana. And we are going to end this stream on a high note, y'all. Puns intended. Pun is intended. I said this a couple streams ago that I want to kind of have the stories about the serious stuff, the relevant news topics, and I want to try to start ending each stream with a kind of more light-hearted story, a little bit happier kind of story, or at least not as deep into the politics. While there is definitely politics attached to this one, I think it's just a more interesting story, kind of a side thing, an interesting topic to talk about. Let's go ahead and look at what we got with the DEA. So, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get the politics out of the way really quick. Biden and Harris are absolute hypocrites, and they should be ashamed of themselves for acting like this is something really big and something that they've felt strongly about for a long time. Kamala Harris put people in jail and kept them in jail for minor drug offenses that included marijuana. She is absolutely a hypocrite and deserves very little credit for doing such a thing. This is a move that has been far too long in the wings. Okay, it's absolutely medicinal. People use it for anxiety. People use it for back pain, muscle pain, nerve pain. The tinctures can be used for people with epilepsy. And there was a video I watched of a man, he wasn't using a tincture, he was just smoking a joint, but he had severe epilepsy and he would just smoke a joint and then, oh, how about you? His hands would stop shaking or his seizures would diminish dramatically. And if it works, it works. That's great. People should be allowed to take their medicine, okay? That's the way I feel about it. Honestly, I think it should be treated like alcohol. I don't think it even needs to be on the schedules. But currently, it is. And taking it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 is a baby step. It's a good approach. I'm happy that it's happening because people that clearly need... There are so many people that take hardcore prescription drugs, painkillers and stuff, and they end up getting addicted and they end up becoming shells of who they used to be because they get hooked on these highly addictive substances, highly addictive prescription medications. Well, the doctor gave it to him. It's okay, right? No, it's not. They tried to say for years that it wasn't even addictive, which is abhorrent. I'm happy that it's happening, but I'm grumpy at the people who are crowing about it and trying to take credit. So, progress toward, well, hi there, little lady in the bottom corner. Progress toward the federal rescheduling of marijuana took a step forward yesterday. The Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, I don't think we even need them, published, I don't think we need a lot of three-letter agencies, though. That's just my knee-jerk, my instinctual response. The DEA published proposed rules open to comment in the U.S. Federal Register to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 of the Schedule 3 drug. This represents a further concrete move in changing U.S. marijuana policy and easing industry regulations, the most significant change in national marijuana legislation since the 70s. I mean, you're not going to give Trump credit for the hemp stuff? I mean, that was pretty damn big. Derivatives of hemp being allowed to being used federally. So this represents further concrete move. Okay. The proposal initiates a 62-day public comment period, a necessary step in the formal federal rulemaking process. The DEA, a component of the Department of Justice, will accept public comments until July 22nd, as stated in Tuesday's notice, and will consider request for a public hearing before an administrative law judge until June 20th. If DEA Administrator Ann Milgram decides to hold a hearing, further notice will be published in the Federal Register. However, the DEA's notice doesn't specify how long the agency will review the public comments before finalizing a rule. They most likely already know what they're going to do, and they're going to go ahead and do it regardless of the public comment. But if you feel so inclined to present public comment, go for it. Can't hurt, right? Yeah, Yanni Fink has a good point. It's habitual if the user is habitual, just like booze or many pills. Yeah, and the thing is, marijuana, you don't become physically addicted. Now you might have some physical withdrawal responses, like a headache or being, irritable in general. That's more psychological. Yeah, marijuana, you're not going to overdose on marijuana typically, and you would die of carbon monoxide poisoning, I would think, before you would die from the actual substance, unless you had like a heart condition and you had like a sativa blend or something. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know all the logistics of such a thing, but I don't think there's ever been a documented case of a THC overdose in a natural setting. Now, if you concentrated THC and had an insane amount in your system, maybe I could see that. But so the process to reschedule marijuana began in October of 2022 when President Joe Biden issued an executive order directing agencies to expeditiously review the existing policy of classifying marijuana. In August 2023, after reviewing information including data from states with legal cannabis programs, the Department of Health and Human Services determined that marijuana has a currently acceptable use and recommended reclassifying it as a Schedule 3 drug. In that process, the HHS considered 8 factors, including the drug's actual or relative potential for abuse, scientific evidence, and its current scientific knowledge, marijuana's history and the current pattern of abuse, the scope, duration, and significance of abuse, potential risk there is to the public health, potential addiction, and whether marijuana is an immediate precursor of a substance already controlled, which it's not. This gateway drug thing, if anything, alcohol is more of a gateway drug than marijuana would be, because the inhibitions are reduced dramatically with alcohol, and people tend to do some interesting stuff whenever they drink. Just saying. So if we're going to call a gateway drug, let's call alcohol out for what it is. Depends on the person, but just in general, it would be a gateway drug in my opinion. Doesn't mean that when you drink, you're going to do hardcore drugs. Doesn't mean that when you smoke, you're going to do hardcore drugs. I agree, Cole's towing. Just legalize it. There's a discussion between legalization and decriminalization. Decriminalization, I think, would make it so that the government isn't able to benefit as haughtily from, I think, taxes. I think that was the crux of the argument that I was listening to. There is a discussion between decriminalization versus legalization. It doesn't need to be ruining people's lives if they smoke a little bit in the evening. Even if they do it recreationally. I mean, I don't care, as long as you're not hurting anybody. You're not going around driving, trying to take care of your kids when you're stoned out of your mind. There's responsible use that people can implement. And like I was saying earlier, there are people who can and there are people who can't use certain substances. I think that's the case with most things. Overindulgence is a problem. Might be some people that, some of y'all watch too that have had an issue with overindulgence. I don't know. Sure doesn't look good, but happy stuff. Back to this. So, this category, Schedule 3, includes drugs like anabolic steroids, ketamine, and testosterone, which are legally available and can be obtained through prescription. In this context, the DEA's notice highlighted that if marijuana is reclassified to a Schedule 3, the regulatory controls for Schedule 3 substances, along with existing marijuana-specific requirements and any additional controls to meet U.S. treaty obligations, would apply as appropriate. The manufacture, distribution, dispensing, and possession of marijuana would still be subject to criminal prohibitions of the CSA. Which was the CSA? What was that? Was that mentioned earlier? Controlled Substances Act. Duh. Drugs containing substances defined as marijuana under the CSA would also remain subject to prohibitions in the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The big change for the cannabis industry would be that marijuana listed in Schedule 3 of the CSA wouldn't be subject to IRS Code Section 280E, which is currently preventing marijuana businesses from taking certain deductions of their federal tax returns. It's worth highlighting that the rescheduling of marijuana from Schedule 1 to 3 wouldn't legalize marijuana for adult use. To achieve this, marijuana would need to be descheduled from the CSA. It should be descheduled. It shouldn't be on the schedule at all. Yeah. The publication of notice proposing rules for the rescheduling of marijuana follows the DEA's reported plan on April 30th to reclassify marijuana, recognizing its medical uses and acknowledging it has less potential for abuse than some of the nation's most dangerous drugs, and President Biden's official announcement to ease marijuana regulations. Biden described this move as monumental, marking a significant step towards reversing long-standing inequities. Dude, you initiated the inequities in a lot of instances when it came to drugs, at least with cocaine. You were one of the champions of that thing where it absolutely ended up targeting the people in the black community. Yeah, it did. It wasn't good. Biden, you can't just do this and put a Band-Aid on it and act like everything's okay. And you're a champion of actually reducing the disparity in the approach of the justice system to individuals for what they're doing. So miss me with that. All right, so that was the end of that article. I think it's a good thing. I think there are people that absolutely benefit from the use of marijuana in a medicinal way. I think that it should be legalized recreationally. I don't care if you smoke, as long as you're, like I said, as long as you're not hurting others, I don't care. I'm fairly libertarian in my approach to a lot of things. I hesitate to say that, I do hesitate to say that all drugs should be decriminalized. Or because here's the thing: if people want to use a substance until they off themselves or end up, deceased, who are we to tell them no? Honestly, but also you can't have chaos. There has to be some order. So that's where I'm not a libertarian that thinks that just the government needs to be gone completely. I don't like the government, but I think it's a necessary evil at times. We do have a structure that we need to adhere to, and government is part of that. So interesting stat if true there. Cole's Towing said that he thinks that something crazy like 20 to 25% of Americans are on antidepressants. Maybe more after the COVID stuff. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna call it COVID. I'm gonna call it Rona. The Wu flu. If people can be taking something that's less habit forming, less addictive with antidepressants. And here's the thing, there's been interesting research recently that shows that SSRIs might not actually be doing what they've said they're doing. Maybe it's just a racket by the pharmaceutical industry to get doctors, padding their wallets because they get incentives for suggesting medications to patients. America is one of the few countries in this world that allows pharmaceutical ads on TV. I can't watch something on Hulu, and I don't pay extra for Hulu. I actually, the ads on Hulu are almost all big pharma ads, and it just gets tiresome. And I've got two kids that are old enough to watch stuff, and they're just like they've adopted my approach because when I see a pharma ad of an ad for a medicine, I'll just instantly go, come on. And like now my kids do it. So I'm training them up right, I hope. Yeah, people definitely shouldn't be smoking at work, shouldn't be coming to work high. It's not good. There's a responsible way to do it. You shouldn't be going to work drunk. You shouldn't be going to work under the influence high. There are people that work on prescription medications and they're just taking them like the doctor told them, but they're clearly out of it. They're zonked. That's not good either. Okay. If you work, you need to be focused on work and being able to work as best you can. I am thinking we are making progress, even if it's baby steps. We're doing good things. People are starting to adjust. Yeah, people keep, it can be a good thing. I think that it's going to help a lot of people. I think that there are people that are going to abuse it for sure, but that's the case regardless. People are going to abuse it regardless. I think for the people who aren't trying to abuse it and actually need it and could see benefit from it, I think this is absolutely a good thing. Eventually, hopefully, we get to a point where it's legalized recreationally and treated the same as alcohol, while recognizing that there are some people who can handle certain substances and there are people who can't. Hopefully, that was ending on a little bit of a high note, maybe not as funny as or lighthearted as it could have been, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So kind of going to run through what we talked about today. We talked about the unconstitutional search of Mar-A-Lago, the use of deadly force being authorized, and the nuance that actually goes into that. You did have interaction probably between the agencies. They're both federal, Secret Service and the FBI, so they had to have been probably talking back and forth. We talked about Judge Merchan being a complete douchebag in the Trump trial, the accounting error trial. We talked about the 13 Oregon counties trying to secede from Oregon to Idaho. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with that. It looks like almost half the state of Oregon wants to dip out and join Idaho. The Greater Idaho Movement, they call it. We also talked about the Iranian president passing away after his chopper crashed. And then we ended on a high note, talking about marijuana and its rescheduling. Like I said, baby steps, it's a good thing. I enjoyed myself tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed yourselves. I appreciate everybody who participated in the chat. I appreciate you lurkers too, okay? Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. The one soul watching on YouTube. Thanks, man, or girl, or Z, or Zer, or whatever you like to be called. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of information today. Hopefully, it was presented in a somewhat entertaining way. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can follow me at Billdozer74 here on Rumble. You can follow me, Dozer74 on X. I'm on Truth Social as well. Billdozer74 there. Thank you guys. I actually received the first Rumble rant ever from Daremuth. Chadley Daremuth. Awesome. $2 Rumble rant. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys' support. If you like what I'm doing, like the stream, share it, get the word out. Like I said, I aim to inform and entertain. Really appreciate you guys watching. I'll see y'all next time.